Hey there, yarn bestie. It's Jia from Hobbii here, and you're listening to Skein and Tell, the podcast that unravels it all. Today's episode, we are talking about something that sounds a little mysterious, maybe even intimidating, but it's actually the secret sauce to bold, beautiful colorwork, and that's floats. Now, if you've ever flipped over a stranded knitted project, maybe a mitten, a sweater yoke, or even just a little swatch, you have seen them. Those little strands of yarn traveling across the back of your stitches, that's what we call floats. And learning how to manage them is the difference between colorwork that feels tight and puckered and colorwork that's smooth, stretchy, and wearable. So whether you're brand new to stranded knitting or you've been avoiding it because floats scare you, bestie, today we're going to unravel floats together step by step. And by the end, I promise you'll feel ready to tackle the bold Nordic-inspired motifs of the Dorthea collection from Copenhagen Fibers. So let's get into it. So what exactly are floats? Let's start with the basics. When you're knitting stranded colorwork, you usually have two yarns going at once. You knit with one, and then the other one just hangs out, waiting for its turn. But because your knitting needle keeps moving forward, that unused yarn travels across the back of the fabric. And that's your float. On the front, you get those gorgeous motifs. On the back, your yarn is quietly, let's call it hitchhiking along until it's needed again. It sounds simple, right? But here is why floats really matter. If they're too tight, they pucker the fabric. Your motif looks almost squished. If they're too loose, your tension is sloppy and you risk catching your fingers on the long loops when you wear the sweater. And if you manage them just right, you then get a fabric that's smooth, even, and comfortable to wear. So how do you actually knit with floats? Step 1 is knit your stitches with the working yarn as normal. Step 2, let the yarn not used travel loosely across the back. Don't pull it tight. Imagine it's taking a gentle nap back there, okay? And then step 3, every few stitches, spread your stitches out on the right-hand needle. This gives the float enough slack to lie comfortably across the back without tugging. Now you can do a quick check for yourself. After a few stitches, gently tug the fabric in, and if it stretches easily, then you're good. If it feels stiff, your floats are definitely too tight. Don't worry, take a breath, relax your shoulders. Seriously, float tension often lives in your shoulders, so relax them and eventually try again. It's not only enough to know how to help these floats travel, but you also need to be securing them. So you need to be catching them in. Now here is where things get a bit practical. Sometimes a motif makes you carry one color across a long stretch. That's basically more than 5 stitches. And that's when floats get very long and they risk snagging. The trick is to catch or trap the float. Now here's how you do it. First of all, you knit one stitch with your working yarn, and before the next stitch happens, you have to bring the unused yarn over the working yarn. Then you have to knit the next stitch with your working yarn just as usual, and move the unused yarn back to its original position. On the front, your motif stays clean. On the back, the float now lies neatly against the fabric, shorter and more secure. A general rule of thumb is to catch your floats every 3 to 5 stitches, depending on your yarn thickness and your gauge. But I also have some extra tips for, more confident floats. So let's level up a little bit with some tried and true tricks. Swatch first. I know, swatching isn't glamorous, but colorwork gauge is often tighter than plain stocking it. Now, a swatch helps you feel out your tension and practice floats without pressure. Second of all, stay consistent. When you're holding 2 yarns, the one you hold closer to your stitches is the dominant color, because it pops forward, and keep the dominant color in the same hand throughout the project so that your motifs don't wobble. And of course, tension check every so often, spread out these stitches and gently stretch your fabric. If it's too tight, consciously loosen up. If it's too loose, reel in a little bit. Floats are a dance between control and relaxation. Then, of course, there's the inside-out trick. If you're knitting something in the round, like a mitten or a sweater, try knitting with the fabric inside out. That way, the floats naturally travel around the outside of the curve, giving them a little bit more room and preventing that puckering. Use shorter needles is my next little trick. So for projects like mittens, using a shorter circular needle or magic loop can make it easier to spread stitches and control floats. Block your work is the next tip I have for you. Block your work. This is your bestie. This is your best friend, okay? A gentle soak and block evens out stitches. It relaxes the floats and makes everything look more polished. So do not skip blocking your work. And that was my little tips for how you can make your floats flow with your work. But also let me tell you a little secret. Floats aren't just the hidden side of your knitting. They can actually tell a story about your project or about your knitting style and even your mood. Now, here's what I mean by that. Floats, they carry tension of your work. So if you're knitting while, relaxed, happy, and so forth, your floats are usually even and they're soft. But if you're stressed, hello, tight floats. In a way, they are almost like a diary on the inside of your sweater. So they kind of record how you felt stitch by stitch. And here's something most people don't realize. In some historical pieces of stranded knitting, researchers can actually date or they can regionally identify a garment just by the floats on the inside, because different cultures had different ways of managing them. Some cut them every 2 stitches, others let them run for longer. It's a little bit like a secret fingerprint of, the maker's tradition and where the maker comes from. Oh, and if we're still talking about tips and tricks, I just remembered a new one. The tension of the floats can also be severely influenced by the humidity in the air. That is correct. This kind of shocked me, but I remember one of my close friends was making a beautiful Christmas sweater, and she was going on a cruise ship, and it turns out that she could not figure out why suddenly her floats were extremely, extremely tight. And it was because it was so much more humid on the cruise than it was in her apartment. So that's also super, super interesting. Be wary of the temperature and be wary of the humidity in the room or the location you are knitting with colorwork, because it can really influence. So anyway, next time you peek, at your colorwork, don't think of floats as annoying and I cannot master them and it's difficult. Think of them a little bit as invisible magic or the secret history, or maybe even kind of like an emotional heartbeat or a diary of your mood as well. It's quite interesting how they are basically the mystery stitches that make colorwork possible, right? Now, why are we talking so much about floats today? Easy answer. Because they are the beating heart of the Dorthea collection. So every piece in the Dorthea collection, from the cozy mittens to the statement yoke sweater, uses strand knitting to create bold and modern Nordic motifs. And once you get comfortable with the floats, those designs go, from intimidating to absolutely irresistible. So here's where I start if you are new to stranded knitting or to colorwork. The Dorthea Mittens. Okay, it's an easy one. It's small, it's fast, and it's fun. The perfect test run for the floats. Then you can also try the Dorthea Cowl, which is worked in the round, so you can basically practice stranded knitting in a more manageable project. And then, once you mastered those, once you're feeling confident, ultimate reward is definitely the Dorthea sweater and the Yoke Sweater. Big motifs, bold colors, in garments you'll be so proud to wear. All of the patterns are free on the Hobbii.com website, and the blog also has photos and guides to help you along the way. So it's not just me chit-chatting away and you having to do a lot of research on YouTube and who knows where. Just head out to the blog. I added a link in the notes of this episode, and yeah, give it a shot. It's an incredible new technique that is really a lot of fun to master. And here's the real secret, okay? So floats aren't really scary. They're just part of the rhythm of stranded knitting. It's like learning to ride a bike. You wobble at first, and suddenly you're just cruising away. So do grab your yarn, swatch a little, dive in. The Dorthea collection is going to be there waiting for you, and it's the perfect playground to build your skills. And before long enough, floats will just become your second nature. So bestie, that's floats unraveled. What they are, how to manage them, how to secure them, how to knit them with confidence. Once again, don't forget you can grab the free Dorthea patterns on the Hobbii.com website and check out the full blog post for step-by-step guides, photos, and colorwork tips. And if you cast on a Dorthea project, please share it with us, tag at Hobbii_yarn and at Copenhagen Fibers on Instagram, and use the hashtag Hobbii Dorthea and hashtag Copenhagen Fibers by Hobbii, because these aren't just floats. They're stitches that bring bold, beautiful color work to life. And you, bestie, are absolutely ready for them. I know it. Until next time, keep your floats even and your stitches joyful. That was Jia from Hobbii. I will see you very soon. Okay. Love you, bestie. Bye.